Let me be real with you for a second. If you are over 60 and you have been trying to eat healthy, watching your portions, cutting out the junk food, maybe even going to bed a little earlier, and your doctor still looks at you across that desk with concern in their eyes and says your blood sugar is still too high, then this video might be the most important thing you watch all year. Because what I am about to share with you is not about adding more medication, not about some extreme diet, and definitely not about eating food that tastes like cardboard. This is about something far more sneaky, far more frustrating, and honestly something that most people over 60 have no idea is happening inside their own body every single day. There are 5 foods sitting in your kitchen right now, foods that the wellness industry, the grocery store packaging, and even some well-meaning health articles have told you are good for you, that are almost certainly spiking your blood sugar in ways that are silently aging your heart, your kidneys, and your brain. And the most maddening part? You would never guess these are the culprits. We are not talking about candy bars or soda. We are talking about foods that wear a health halo, foods people over 60 genuinely believe are protecting them. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to see your grocery list in a completely different way. Before we get into the 5 foods, I want you to understand something about your body after 60 that almost nobody talks about. And once you understand this, everything else in this video is going to click into place. Here is what happens. As we age, particularly after the age of 60, our body goes through a very significant shift in something called insulin sensitivity. Now that might sound like a medical term, so let me put it in plain English. Insulin is the hormone your body uses like a key to unlock your cells and let sugar in from your bloodstream. When you are young, that key works smoothly. Your cells open right up, blood sugar gets absorbed quickly, and everything stays balanced. But after 60, something changes. Your cells start to resist that key. They do not open as easily, so your blood sugar stays elevated longer after every single meal, even a so-called healthy one. Research published in journals focused on aging metabolism has consistently shown that insulin resistance increases significantly in adults over 60, particularly in people who are not doing high-intensity physical activity and in people who have certain body composition changes that naturally occur with age. This is not about willpower, this is biology. And here is why it matters for what you are about to learn. A food that barely moved the needle on your blood sugar when you were 40 might now send it on a roller coaster ride you do not even feel, but your blood vessels absolutely do. So now, with that in mind, let us talk about the first food that is quietly working against you. The first one is going to surprise a lot of people, and I want you to hear me out completely before you dismiss this. We are talking about fruit juice. And yes, I mean the kind that says 100% natural on the label, the kind that looks like sunshine in a glass. The kind that people have been pouring every morning for decades thinking they were doing something wonderful for their health. Here is the truth that the packaging will never tell you. When you squeeze fruit into juice, you strip out almost all of the fiber. And fiber is the very thing that slows down how quickly the natural sugars in fruit enter your bloodstream. A whole orange has fiber wrapped around those sugar molecules, essentially creating a speed bump so that the sugar absorbs gradually. But when you drink orange juice, even the freshest, most expensive, most natural orange juice on the planet, you are sending a concentrated wave of sugar directly into your system with nothing slowing it down. For a person over 60 with naturally reduced insulin sensitivity, that sugar hits the bloodstream fast and hard. Studies looking at glycemic response in older adults have shown that fruit juice can spike blood sugar in a way that is comparable to drinking a sugary soda for people who already have some degree of insulin resistance. The body simply cannot process it fast enough. Now, does this mean you can never have juice again? Of course not. But having a full glass every morning as part of a health routine without understanding this effect is something that deserves a serious second look. If you love the flavor of fruit in the morning, eating the whole fruit is dramatically better for your blood sugar, and we will circle back to some smarter swaps a little later. But first, let us move on to the second food, and this one genuinely surprises most people. The second food on this list is one that practically every health article and nutrition label has been praising for years, and it has developed an almost unshakable reputation as a superfood for seniors. We are talking about whole grain bread and whole wheat crackers. Now, before anyone throws something at the screen, let me explain, because the devil is absolutely in the details here. Whole grain is genuinely better than white bread in terms of fiber content. That part is true. But here's what most people do not realize. The glycemic index of many commercially produced whole wheat breads is still surprisingly high. The glycemic index is basically a score that tells you how quickly a food raises your blood sugar compared to pure glucose. White bread scores around 70 to 75. but many popular whole wheat bread brands sit right around 69 to 74. The difference is smaller than most people think. And the reason is this. Commercial whole wheat bread is often made from flour that is still very finely ground. Even though the grain is technically whole, once it is ground into fine flour, your digestive enzymes can break it down very quickly, causing a faster blood sugar rise than the word whole grain would suggest. For someone over 60 who is already navigating reduced insulin sensitivity, eating 2 or 3 slices of whole wheat toast in the morning while believing it is a safe blood sugar choice is a real issue. Research on post-meal blood sugar responses in older adults has confirmed that even whole grain products can cause significant spikes when consumed in portions that are common in American breakfasts. The situation gets even more complicated when you add something on top of that toast, and we will get to that in just a moment, because the third food has a fascinating and unexpected connection to this exact scenario. The third food is one that probably has a dedicated shelf in your refrigerator right now, and there is a good chance someone in your life recommended it specifically because it is good for your health. We are talking about flavored yogurt. Now here is where it gets really interesting, because plain yogurt, particularly Greek yogurt, is genuinely excellent for people over 60. It is high in protein, it supports gut health, and its effect on blood sugar is relatively moderate. But the flavored versions, the strawberry, the blueberry, the vanilla, the peach, the honey, these are an entirely different story, nutritionally speaking. A single serving of flavored yogurt from a major brand can contain anywhere from 15 to 28 grams of added sugar. That is before you have eaten anything else with it. And because yogurt is a soft, easily digestible food, that sugar gets absorbed very quickly. For people over 60, this matters enormously. Now think about a typical morning that many health-conscious seniors put together: a glass of orange juice, 2 slices of whole wheat toast, and a cup of flavored yogurt on the side. Every single one of those 3 items is on this list. And while each one feels like a healthy choice individually, combined they create a blood sugar storm in the morning hours that can set your energy, your hunger hormones, and your metabolic state on a chaotic course for the entire rest of the day. The frustrating part is that people doing this genuinely believe they are taking care of themselves. They read labels, they choose branded health products, they avoid fast food, and they are still inadvertently spiking their blood sugar multiple times a day without knowing it. But here's what I want you to pay attention to, because the fourth food is the one that generates the most disbelief when I bring it up, and it is something that millions of seniors are consuming in large amounts specifically because they were told it would help their hearts. Granola. I said what I said. Granola is one of the most misleading health foods in the American market, and it has been for decades. The word granola carries with it this wholesome, outdoorsy, natural energy that makes people feel virtuous when they eat it. It gets sprinkled on yogurt, eaten in handfuls as a snack, poured into bowls as cereal, and mixed into so-called health bars. And it is absolutely loaded with sugar and rapidly digestible carbohydrates in most of its commercially available forms. Here's how it works. Granola is typically made with oats, which on their own are actually a solid blood sugar-friendly food for many people. Rolled oats have a moderate glycemic index and a decent amount of soluble fiber. But commercially made granola takes those oats and coats them in oil, honey, maple syrup, dried fruit, and sometimes brown sugar, then bakes them until they are crunchy and caramelized. What you end up with is a product that has a very different blood sugar impact than plain oats. A quarter-cup serving of many popular granola brands contains 14 to 20 grams of sugar and enough processed carbohydrates to spike blood sugar significantly in someone with age-related insulin resistance. And here is the cruel irony. People usually do not eat a quarter cup. They eat a full bowl. Some research looking at real-world portion sizes found that people consistently underestimate how much granola they are eating, often consuming 3 to 4 times the labeled serving size. For a person over 60 who is already managing or trying to prevent blood sugar issues, this is a hidden source of metabolic stress that shows up in blood test results and leaves both the patient and the doctor puzzled because nobody suspects the granola. It is too healthy sounding to be the problem, but now you know. And that brings us to the fifth food, which is the one I think is most important to understand, because its blood sugar effect is deeply connected to something happening inside your body over 60 that goes beyond just diet. This one changes the entire conversation. The fifth food is smoothies. And I want to be very specific here, because this is nuanced and important. Smoothies made at home with certain ingredients, particularly smoothies that include protein, healthy fats, and lower sugar fruits, can absolutely be a reasonable option. But the smoothies that most people over 60 are drinking, whether from fast casual chains, from pre-made bottled versions at the grocery store, or from recipes they found on health websites targeted at seniors, are frequently blood sugar nightmares disguised as medicine. Here is why. A typical health-focused smoothie recipe might include 2 bananas, a cup of frozen mango, a cup of orange juice used as the liquid base, and maybe some honey for taste and a scoop of flavored protein powder. Every single one of those ingredients except the protein powder is high in rapidly absorbed sugar. And because the fruit has been blended, the fiber that would normally slow sugar absorption has been mechanically broken down to a significant degree. The result is a drink that delivers an enormous amount of sugar very quickly into your digestive system. There is fascinating research on something called the food matrix, which essentially means that the physical structure of food affects how quickly it is digested. When you blend or juice food, you disrupt that matrix. The same strawberries eaten whole versus blended have a measurably different blood sugar effect, and that difference is more significant in older adults whose insulin response is already less efficient. Some bottled smoothie products marketed specifically to older adults for energy and nutrition contain 35 to 50 grams of sugar per bottle. To put that in context, the American Heart Association recommends that women limit added sugar to 25 grams per day and men to 36 grams per day. One smoothie can blow past that entire daily limit. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You are thinking, okay, but I have been drinking these things and I feel fine. And this is the most critical point I want to leave you with, and this is why blood sugar issues after 60 are so dangerous. You often do not feel the damage while it is happening. Here is something that cardiologists and endocrinologists talk about frequently, but that most patients never hear. Elevated blood sugar, particularly the kind that spikes after meals and then comes back down, does not usually cause dramatic symptoms in its early stages in older adults. You do not feel your blood vessels getting stiffer. You do not feel the inflammation building in your arterial walls. You do not feel your kidneys working harder than they should. You do not feel the subtle cognitive effects that high blood sugar has on brain tissue over time. This is why doctors sometimes call blood sugar one of the silent threats of aging. It operates quietly in the background for years before the symptoms become impossible to ignore, and by the time those symptoms appear, significant cumulative damage has often already occurred. This is why understanding these foods is not about fear. It is about being proactive, informed, and giving your body the respect it deserves at this stage of life. Now let me give you something genuinely useful because I never want to just take something away without offering something better. For fruit juice, consider switching to eating whole fruits with meals. Berries in particular, including blueberries, raspberries, and strawberries, have a relatively low glycemic index and are loaded with antioxidants that support blood vessel health. For your bread and crackers, look for options that list a whole grain as the first ingredient and that have at least 3 grams of fiber per slice. Even better, sourdough made through traditional long fermentation has been shown in some research to have a lower glycemic response than conventional whole wheat bread because the fermentation process changes how the starches are broken down. For yogurt, making the switch from flavored to plain Greek yogurt and adding your own fresh berries gives you all the protein and gut health benefits with a fraction of the sugar. For granola, consider replacing it with a small portion of steel-cut oats cooked with cinnamon. Cinnamon has been studied for its potential blood sugar moderating effects and adds flavor without any sugar at all. And for smoothies, if you love them, the key is to restructure the formula. Use a base of unsweetened almond milk or plain Greek yogurt. Add a small amount of lower sugar fruit like berries. Include a source of healthy fat like half an avocado or a tablespoon of nut butter. Add a high-quality unflavored protein powder and skip any fruit juice entirely. That formula creates a very different blood sugar response than the typical sweet smoothie recipe. I also want to mention something that dramatically affects how even better food choices impact your blood sugar, and it is something that is entirely within your control starting today. The order in which you eat your food during a meal has a measurable effect on blood sugar response. Research has shown that eating protein and fiber-rich vegetables before eating carbohydrates during the same meal results in significantly lower blood sugar spikes than eating carbohydrates first. This has been studied specifically in older adults, and the results are consistently meaningful. If you have a meal with chicken, vegetables, and rice, eating the chicken and vegetables first and the rice last can reduce your post-meal blood sugar peak by a meaningful percentage. It sounds almost too simple to be true, but the physiology behind it makes complete sense. Protein and fiber slow down the rate at which the stomach empties into the small intestine, which is where carbohydrates are absorbed. So by the time the carbohydrates arrive, the absorption process is slower and more controlled. This one habit costs absolutely nothing to implement and requires no change in what you eat, only in what order you eat it. Movement after meals is another intervention that has strong research support for adults over 60 specifically. Even a short 10 to 15-minute walk after eating has been shown in multiple studies to significantly blunt the blood sugar spike that follows a meal. Your muscles use glucose for energy when they contract, which essentially acts as a natural drain on blood sugar without requiring any insulin at all. For older adults, this is particularly powerful because it works through a pathway that bypasses insulin resistance entirely. You do not need to go to the gym or do anything strenuous. A gentle walk around the block or even some light movement in your living room after dinner can make a real difference in your metabolic health over time. I want to take a moment here and just say this directly. You have been doing your best. If you have been buying whole grain bread and drinking orange juice and eating flavored yogurt, you are not making ignorant choices. You are following the guidance that has been broadly promoted for years. The food industry has spent enormous amounts of money making these products look and feel healthy, and they have been extremely effective at it. Understanding what is actually happening in your body after 60 is not about blame. It is about giving you real information so that you can make choices that actually match the goal you have always had, which is to feel good, stay sharp, keep your independence, and be there for the people you love for as long as possible. That is what this is all about. Now, I genuinely want to hear from you because I know that everyone watching has their own experience with this topic. Maybe you have already discovered one of these foods was a problem for you and made a change that helped. Maybe your doctor recently flagged something in your blood work and you are just now putting the pieces together. Or maybe you have a question about a specific food that you have been unsure about and you would love a straight answer. Drop it in the comments below. Seriously, I read every single comment and I respond as often as I possibly can. The conversation in the comments section of this channel is one of the most valuable things about this community because real people share real experiences that help others. If someone in your life, a spouse, a sibling, a parent, a close friend, is over 60 and has been struggling with blood sugar or has been confused about why their health is not improving despite eating what they believe is a healthy diet, do me a favor and share this video with them. It costs nothing, and it could genuinely change the direction of their health. That is the whole point of making this content. Your health after 60 is not a fixed destination. It is something you can actively influence with better information and smarter daily choices. The body has a remarkable capacity to respond and recover when you give it what it actually needs. And now you have 5 fewer hidden obstacles standing between you and that goal. Take care of yourself, keep asking questions, and I will see you in the next video.